Well, Mr. Ripken, how are you today, pal? Okay?
I'm doing well, Christopher. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Let's start with San Diego. Big win last night, some emotion. They're going to get Tatis back momentarily. Bad weekend for Soto. Good performance last night. They have their bullseye on their back, which is going to put some pressure on a team that usually doesn't have it. But, listen, big win last night. Let me get a little sense on San Diego after the first 5 games.
Well, you know what? I think the reason why they have a bullseye on their back a little bit is because people like us have thought to them being finally the team that's going to knock the Dodgers out of that top spot. But let's be fair, they probably should have a little bit of bullseye on them because of the amount of money that they've been throwing around over the past few years. But I tell you what, I still like the Padres. I think this team is built for the long haul of the 162. And I think if they get all their people back and they stay healthy, I don't think anybody wants to run up against that lineup, come playoff time either. So I still like the Padres right here. That did look like a nice win last night. A lot of excitement going on in San Diego, but they have a bullseye on their back for a reason. They're pretty good. They should be. They spend the money to be good. So let's go out there and prove it this year.
Interesting. Now, you were on a team there in '88 that couldn't win a game for months, got your father fired, and then Frank Robinson came in. So you know what it's like to start to press a little bit, trying to get that first W. And here's where we are with the Phillies, who obviously lose their first 4, 2 more at Yankee Stadium, which will not be easy. And this is, a team that a lot of people thought could win a World Series as well, with a lot of injuries they're dealing with. Pitching staff injury, Hoskins, and, of course, Harper. A little concern about Philadelphia. Let me get your thoughts with them.
All right, well, first of all, it wasn't months until we won our first game. We did get my father fired. We lost 6 games to start the year, and Senior was let go. We lost 15 more under Frank, as it turned out, but we were 0-21 to start the year. I would not wish that upon anybody, that's for sure. Look, Philadelphia has not looked good to start the year. Let's keep this in mind. Am I a little concerned? Sure. But let's keep this in mind. They were not that good to begin last year. Whatever happened when Joe came out and Robbie Thompson came in, they picked up a little bit of mojo, but I don't know if they have the same pieces in place. You mentioned some injuries. I think Hoskins going down is going to hurt an awful lot, especially since Harper is already on the shelf. So I think there's reason to be a little concerned. I know things are magnified when the year starts and you get out this way, but the optics, and I know you're big on optics, they have just not looked the part so far this year.
Hey, good thought. Tampa, listen, they're not playing the 27 Yankees. I mean, Detroit and, of course, the Nationals, but they can really pitch. That formula works beautifully. They don't need a ton of offense, and they win their first 4. The Rays will be competitive all year. Give me your thoughts on that pitching staff and how far that could take them in the American League East.
Well, it seems to be the same old Rays, and I say that because I probably look at them as the 3rd or 4th best team in the American League East when the year started, like I do every year. And every year I'm proven wrong on that. The formula and whatever they do, whatever's in the water in Tampa Bay is unique because a guy can get 4 hits on a Monday and come into the ballpark and look at the lineup on Tuesday and him not be in it because the matchups say we're not in it. And it amazes me how that works. It amazes me how there seems to be 100% buy-in that go on down there. But you hit on it. These guys can pitch. And it's just another season where some of these young guys come up through the Rays system, or they go out there and pluck a few pieces that are unwanted in somebody else's system. They plug and play. They figure out how to get things done. It doesn't surprise me that they're there again, other than the fact that I look at them as the 3rd or 4th best team in the division when the year started.
All right. On the subject of the American League East, I know you know this. Toronto's got a brutal schedule to start the year. They're doing some renovations with that Rogers Center. They have a 10-game road trip, including going to the West Coast after Kansas City, and they play 25 of their first 34. I think might be 26, but I believe that's the number away from Toronto in a very good division, and they've lost 3 in a row. Take with that. Let me hear. Go ahead.
Well, look, you hope you hold the course. And I think all good teams are allowed to hover around 500 for a period of time until they start firing on all cylinders. Look, opening day, I looked at that. The first 3 hitters in the lineup had 11 hits. That's the kind of firepower that Toronto can bring to the table. I like them in the American League East still, but to your point, this brutal start of the season, being on the road as much as you are, you got to hold serve. And holding serve can be a couple games under 500, it can be 500, and then you take off from there. So whatever you're taking away from them to begin the season, you're giving it back to them somewhere during the course of the season. And if you just hold serve, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, interesting thought with them. All right, that's number 3. Seattle, not a good start. Bullseye on their back, a little bit like the Phillies, 1-4. They don't hit a lot. And they have 49,000 miles of travel, 6 trips to the East Coast off this homestand. I love bringing that stuff up just to have fun. Kills a couple minutes. Anyway, to make a long story short, 1-4, Angels for 2 more, and Houston's in that division, off to a slow start, but that division's much improved. Thoughts with Seattle? Concern there at all, Billy, or no?
I still like them. When you go back to look at opening day, they won their first one, I believe, and they like playing close games. They can play close games. And they've got some talent. They've got some know-how. I love the fact that they broke that drought last year in the postseason. I love the fact that they advanced one in the postseason. They didn't do much after that as far as offensively is concerned, but I still like the club. I think they're going to figure some stuff out. Houston is still a team in that division that I think is the favorite again. The Angels, we have to see how this stuff plays out as well, but I think Seattle, by at the end of the day, at the end of this season's time, we're going to be talking about them in September as a possible playoff team, if not for sure in the playoffs.
All right, let's go back to your team. I'm fascinated by this. That's a famous streak. Your poor father, he was the scapegoat. You don't have to comment, but he was. 0-6, and of course Frank. Now the next year you had a great year.
Right.
We're in the pennant race, the whole 9 yards. You bounced back great, but 21 straight. My goodness gracious. Give me a little feel of that. When did you start to press? 7 or 8 games in? 3 games in? Break down that 88 start for me on that Baltimore team, you and your brother.
Well,
go ahead.
It was horrible. I'm not splitting atoms here. But the idea of that, it was so bad to go through. Like I said, I would not wish that upon everybody. Every season that starts from then on, I've truly wished everybody starts 1-0 or 1-1 in the first 2 games of the season. And what I mean by that is if that happens, if every team goes 1-1 in the first 2 games it's played, I never have to talk about the 88 Orioles and what happened with that. We didn't change a whole lot in 1989 that we had in 88. In fact, when Eddie was gone, we had Cal, Freddie Lynn, and Eddie Murray in the middle of our lineup. On that team in 88. If there was a way to lose a game, we'd figure it out. We lost games 13-1. We lost games 2-1. We lost games 12-10. If we scored, we gave them up. If we didn't score, sometimes we still gave them up. And if it was tight, we figured out a way to lose. So when the season starts, I truly believe this. I want every team to go 1-1, and that way I don't have to ever talk about it again. If all teams this year would have been 1-1, you wouldn't have brought that up to me. And I really hate bringing up the fact that in 0-6, they gassed my father again. And that still sits with me, and I will make comment about that.
I know
it was wrong then, and it was still wrong today.
That's why I asked it, because I want to get that kind of response for you. All right, game 22, who'd you finally beat for your first win?
We won in Chicago. We beat the White Sox on a trip. I was sack bunting in the late part of that game, got drilled right above the ear flap, was knocked cold. So after the game was over, for concussion protocols, I don't even think I was allowed to have any milk after the game, although I probably still did anyway. But we won in Chicago and finally kind of broke that thing out, but miserable. I'll tell you, it was miserable.
Only me can make your morning horrendous, and I'm glad I did it because I love you so much.
You never make my morning horrendous.
Knock him dead.
Thank you, Christopher.